Hello YouTubers, welcome to part 2 of refining 26 grams of dirty gold powder recovered from e-waste. So back in part 1, I refined this gold dust once, dissolving it in aqua regia, reprecipitating it from solution after filtration, and we're going to do it again. This time I'm going to use a different precipitant to try and get the platinum group metals out of it, which were probably left in after the last refining. So this time we're going to use copperas as a precipitant. But first I've got to get this gold into solution. So just like last time, I'm going to dissolve it in aqua regia. The gold's just been sitting here in this beaker all wrapped up since the end of part 1. I will get it unwrapped here and give you a quick look at it. Alright, there's all the gold from part 1. Not sure how much made it through the first refining step. I'm sure it's a little lighter than it was because there was a lot of debris left in the filter after part 1. So, hopefully, it hasn't gotten too much lighter. And hopefully this next refining step won't make it too light either. But I'm sure there's some platinum group metals in there that need to come out. So, let me get the camera up on the tripod and I will get this in the fume hood and we'll start making some aqua regia and getting this gold dissolved. Okay, let's get started. So just like last time, first thing I'm going to do is, well, first thing I'm going to do is start the fume hood running. Pardon me for stepping in front of the camera. I'm going to try and get some better angles this time with the camera. Well, so there's fewer reflections and less of me in the way. We'll see how well this works. It's tight quarters here in front of the fume hood. Alright, so first thing I need to do is again put a few hundred milliliters of muriatic acid into the beaker. Last time I put in 250, this time I'll put in 250. Actually, I may make it about 300 this time because there's a filter there that needs to be digested too, and there's going to be a lot of pulp from the filter, so I don't want it to be too thick and nasty. So I'll add maybe another 50 milliliters. I'll make it about 300 milliliters this time. Okay, that's just short of 300 milliliters. Okay. Turn it around this way. Get it covered up. Alright, now it's time to add nitric acid. And this time I really promise not to go nuts with the nitric acid. Promise it myself anyway. We'll see how that goes. But I know exactly how much acid I used last time. So I shouldn't have to use any more than that this time. In fact, it should take a little less. 1, 2. I'm putting in right around 2 milliliters per pipette full. And just so things don't get too out of control, I'm only going to put in 4 to start with. Actually, it's a little less than 4 times 2. So instead of 8, that's about 7.5. We'll go with that for now. Just so this thing doesn't get too crazy once it comes up to temperature. Speaking of which, I need to turn the heat on. Again, just medium heat, not too hot. Don't need to boil it. Just get it up to about 80 C. That's where aqua regia really does its thing well. Don't want to heat it up too much, you'll just boil the nitric acid off and it's not doing you any good then. So, okay, this is going to take a little while to heat up. I'm probably not going to show it in the same amazing detail I showed it the first time around because we've already seen it once. And this could get really repetitive, so I'll just give you, the highlights of it. Well, it's been a few minutes. Starting to get a reaction going on in there. It's probably not showing up too well on the video. The liquid has turned a nice shade of orange, and there's a lot of bubbling going on. Let me see if I can get the camera closer and give you a better view of it. I hope all that bubbling going on in there is showing up. Yeah. Zoom in a little bit. Just got the camera peeking through the door in the is starting to dissolve and go back into solution. That's what we want. So in the meantime, maybe we should go and figure out how much copperas we're going to need to precipitate this gold later. Let's go have a look at that and get that ready. So the second precipitant we are going to use to get the gold out of solution is copperas, or iron sulfate. I happen to have some right here, big bag of it. And I have C.M. Hoke's book open here on my computer. I have it in electronic format. And here she's talking about the use of copperas to get gold out of solution. I'll get it to focus. There we go. So she says about a pound of green copperas for each 50 pennyweight of gold you expect to recover. Well, I don't think in pounds and pennyweights, I think in grams. So I did some conversion. So a pound is about 453.59 grams, and 50 pennyweights is about 77.76 grams. All right, so if I had 77.76 grams of gold, I would need 453.59 grams of copperas. Okay, so do a little more math, and we see that equates to 5.83 grams of copperas per gram of gold. Now we've got a number we can really work with, because we know we've got 26.05 grams of gold that's going to be in solution. So that equates to 151.87 grams of copperas that we're going to need to precipitate that gold. But I am going to increase the amount by about 20% just in case I don't do a good job of denoxing the solution. Just to make sure, because what will happen is I'll leave a lot of gold in solution if there's a little excess nitric there, because the first bit of copperas that goes in will precipitate gold, but then it'll be immediately redissolved if there's excess nitric in the solution. Now, I'm not going to use a lot of excess nitric acid, and I'm going to do my best to make sure it's denoxed, but just in case, I'm going to increase the amount of copperas by about 20%. And that's going to equal 182.24 grams of copperas that are going to be needed to bring this gold back out of solution. So I will make that, and I'll show you how I do it. Oh, and by the way, I should say that there's no real penalty for using a little extra of the copperas or iron sulfate. You're just wasting a little bit more of a very, very inexpensive fertilizer. So, you know, better to be safe than sorry and use a little bit extra. You know, you don't want to mix up just the amount you think you need. Add it to your solution, and then do a stannous test after you think all the gold has come out of solution and find out if you've still got gold in solution. You want to get all of it in your first shot. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back and mix up another batch. Alright, just checking up on the gold dissolving. I actually gave it another couple shots of nitric acid. It's going nicely. There's a lot of bubbling going on. I don't know if that's showing up on the video or not, but there's a lot of bubbling going on. We're getting a lot of orange fume production, so this is going along nicely. Well, alright, all the gold is in solution. I did not have a heavy hand with the nitric this time. Denoxing it was super simple. I just put a little bit more of my sulfamic acid solution in it, like I talked about in the first half of this video. There really wasn't much of a reaction, so this time I exercised some restraint and didn't overnox the liquid. And I'll tell you what, this is some really good looking stuff. There's some pulp from the filter paper in there, but other than that, I don't really see any kind of debris, unlike the first time around where there was a lot of scummy stuff on the bottom. This is some really, really clean solution right here. Let me put the camera up on the tripod, and I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Alright, so I'm basically set up for vacuum filtration again, which I'm going to get to, but first I'm going to do something which I forgot to do the first time around. You saw the problem I had with silver chloride coming out of solution as I was filtering and washing the gold solution the last time around. Well, this time, I doubt there's much silver chloride left in here. Maybe just a trace. But I'm going to try and force the issue this time. I'm going to cool and dilute the solution with some ice before I get to the vacuum filtration. Get this in here without splashing any of this gold liquid around, because it is really concentrated. So I'm just going to let that ice melt, cool and dilute this solution, and then I will vacuum filter it. And hopefully, if there is anything in solution that needs to come out, any silver chloride, any lead sulfate, anything else that wants to crash out of solution, I'll give it a chance to do that before I filter it, and we'll get a nice clean filtrate. The ice is all melted, and we will just vacuum filter this now. Get all that paper pulp out of there and anything that came out of solution while the ice was melting. It doesn't look like there's much anything in there, but we'll see. Get the pump going. So this may take a little while, because that paper pulp will clog up the filter. A little bit of a splash on the outside of the beaker here. We don't want to lose any of that. Okay. That actually went a lot quicker than I thought it would. I figured that the paper pulp would clog up the filter. Speaking of the filter, I need to wash all this yellow color out of it. That's all gold. So this will take a little while. I won't make you watch it. Wow, that is some super clean, good looking filtrate right there. That is nice. Alright. With the rinse water and the ice water, we're up to almost 700 milliliters. So we've increased in volume a little bit. Take a look at the filter here. Much cleaner than last time. There's a few little bits of blue stuff in there, which I assume are probably plastic. They look like plastic. I'm not sure where they came from. The only blue plastic I'm using is the nozzle of my spritzer. Maybe it's falling apart. I don't know where else it might be coming from. There's really not much else there. There's a lot of paper pulp from the first filter in there. This filter is going to get stored with my gold filters. Anything that has gold solution come in contact with it, I store it and eventually we'll process it. This had a really concentrated solution of gold go through it, so even though I've washed all the visible color out, I wouldn't be surprised if there's still some gold in the filter and in the pulp. So I'll store that away, and eventually I'll process all my filters. Well, since the volume of the liquid has increased so much, and I'm going to have to add a lot of copperas solution to it to bring this out, bring the gold out of solution, I can't put it back in this beaker it came from. So I'm going to pour it into this much bigger beaker, this 2-liter beaker here. Remember, don't want to splash any of it, so I don't want it glugging. Where's my water bottle? There it is. Let me get every last drop of this golden goodness out of here. around the rim too. Yeah, I can still see there's a slight yellow tinge to the liquid in there. Gotta keep rinsing. That's better. Now it's looking clear. Alright. Let that drain. Now, what I'm going to do is cover this up and put it safely out of harm's way, nice and clean, in the fume hood, just to get it out, like I said, out of harm's way while I mix up the copperas. That's the next step. So I got to mix up some of this. I think I'll have to refer to my notes, but I think it was like 182 grams we decided on. I may just round that up to 185. Like I said in the previous video, there's no real penalty for using a little extra. So I think I will, just to be on the safe side. Okay, back here I have a beaker with about 800 milliliters of distilled water in it. Warming it up so I can dissolve the copperas in that. And next I'm going to weigh out the 185 grams of copperas I need to put in there. Alright, so I don't know if that's showing up on camera or not. Zero it out here. There we go. Alright, so I decided on 185 grams. Now notice I'm not doing this in the fume hood. Copperas is supposedly harmless as mother's milk. I wouldn't recommend you eat it, drink it, get it on your bare skin. But this is probably one of the least harmful chemicals that you'll ever use doing gold refining. A few lumps. You have to use a lot of this. I didn't use anywhere near this much sodium metabisulfite, but there's 186. I overshot a little bit, but you know what? We'll go with it. Well, while we're waiting for the water to get hot, let me show you something. I hope that's showing up. See that purple color in that filter? I washed all the visible yellow out of this filter, but as it's sitting here drying out, it's turning purple. Purple's the color of gold in solution. That's why I save all my filters that I pass gold solution through. There's always going to be a little bit of gold left in them. So, don't throw yours out either. Okay, so the water's had a chance to heat up. Let's see where we are here. A little over 70 C. That should be plenty warm enough. I'm going to turn this down. Actually, I think I'm going to turn it off. Alrighty, let's get this copperas dissolved in here. I can feel a few lumps in there, so I'm probably just going to let this sit here and hydrate for a little while and then see if I can stir out the lumps. Okay, I'm going to let that sit and hydrate, and I'm going to stir it from time to time and see if I can get the lumps I feel in the bottom to break up and dissolve. Oh, that's much better. I don't feel any lumps anymore. I don't really feel any sediment on the bottom. Okay. I'd say that's pretty well dissolved in there. About as well as it's going to get anyway. Now, one problem we have here is it's the wrong color. It's supposed to be green. And if we go back to C.M. Hoke's book, this is supposed to be green. And she says add enough hydrochloric acid, muriatic acid to turn it green. So we shall do that. Ooh, it's heavy. It's a brand new one. Oh, you see the color change? Look at that. Going from brown to green. Nice. Very nice. I would say that's enough. Okay, now, we can't just dump this into the gold solution, which is sitting in the fume hood at the moment. This is a very dirty liquid. It's got a lot of stuff in it. I mean, it's fertilizer. It's not very pure. People are just going to spread this in the dirt, so they don't worry about it being really pure. I'm going to have to filter this. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. If you don't have a vacuum filtration set up like I have, what you can do is just set up a funnel with a filter paper in it and drip this stuff a little bit at a time into your gold solution through the filter. I've done that before. That works. It's slow, especially as all the crud in here clogs up the filter. It takes forever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to vacuum filter all this stuff, and then we'll have a nice clean solution of copperas that we can add to the gold solution. So I'm going to get set up to vacuum filter this. Back in a second. Okay, let's get this filtration done. Get this stuff filtered, we can drop the gold. Probably should have got my bigger filter flask out. There's right at about a liter of liquid here, and this is a 1 liter flask, so not a lot of room, but I don't have to do a lot of rinsing with this either. Oh yeah, there's some crud in the bottom of this beaker. I don't know if it's showing up. I'll try to leave it in the beaker. That's another reason I always use a little extra with the copperas, because it doesn't all dissolve. There's always some insoluble something in there. I don't know what that stuff is. Might take a magnet to it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's iron filings, but that's kind of really off topic for this video. Looks heavy, so I bet it's iron filings. Some of it anyway. Yeah, filter's starting to get clogged. It's taking a while. But getting a nice clear filtrate, that's good. Don't want to contaminate the gold. I've been trying so hard to clean up with whatever this crud is. Yeah, look at that. I don't know what that stuff is. Nasty. Alright, I'll let this finish filtering through and get ready to drop the gold. Well, I just had an epic fail. I thought I had started the recording before I started pouring the copperas in, but I didn't. But I haven't poured it all in, but I wanted to stop the camera anyway and show you what's going on over here. We had a pretty much immediate color change, and there's a lot of gold floating on the surface, fine crystalline gold floating on the surface. Let me bring the camera over and show you that. Sorry, I thought I had hit record before I started pouring it, and you missed out on me talking about some great stuff. Oh well, I'm sure you'll live. Let me get you a picture of what's going on over here. So what you're seeing there is crystalline gold floating on the surface. I don't know if I can zoom in on any of it. sometimes it's really pretty. Forms little dendritic patterns. Anyway, I've got to finish pouring this copperas in and make sure we get all the gold out of solution. Okay. So if I've done the math correctly, that should be more than enough copperas to bring all of the gold out of solution. And let's see, I've got a cure for the floating gold too. I do want the gold to settle to the bottom. So, going to hit it with a spritz of distilled water. Breaks the surface tension. And the gold sinks. So I'm going to let this just sit here for a few minutes. Cover it up. Keep it clean. And we'll do a stannous chloride test on it and see if we got all of the gold out of solution. Man, I can't believe I didn't hit record. Maybe I hit the wrong button. I thought I hit record. Always got to look for the little red light before I start yakking. So, here we go. The moment of truth. And of course the garbage truck is going by just as I'm filming this. Okay. Here we go. Oh, wow. Okay. It took a little while to get started. I'll have to bring the camera over and show you what's going on. Gold is coming out of solution and floating on top of the surface. Okay, so fortunately I had my Gopro going too, so we'll get some of it. I'll edit this all together and you'll get to see the copperas going in and the color change. Alright, and now it has been like 2 minutes since I filmed the last segment, and almost all the gold has already settled out to the bottom. That is just remarkably quick. Those are some big gold crystals to settle through almost 2 liters of water that quickly. Okay, it's time to do a stannous chloride test. Those of you who have watched my channel know that I am a proponent of the white spoon method when doing stannous chloride tests, because I really like the color contrast against a white background of a plastic. You can really see the faint coloration of the liquid in there. But this was a really highly concentrated solution of gold. Every drop had a significant amount of gold in it. If something went terribly wrong, I got my math wrong, and I haven't dropped the bulk of the gold out of this solution, I don't want to waste even a drop of it on the white spoon method. So we're going to go with the filter paper strip method of doing a stannous chloride test. I've got some filter paper strips cut up here, and we're just gonna wet one with a little bit of the liquid. Very yellow. Now you might think that means there's a lot of gold left in solution. Well, that's the color of the copperas after the gold is dropped. But we'll see if there's any gold in there. We'll just do a little bit of this. And really there's no change other than a lot of the yellow is bleached out. There's no real color to it. Alright, I'm going to set this aside and we'll just see if it goes purple after a while like the filter did earlier. That'll tell me if there's any slight amount of gold left in solution, but it's sure not looking like it. It's sure looking, and I'm hoping that's showing up. So I've dropped all the gold. Wow, that is amazing. It's all down here at the bottom already. I'll try and give you a closer up look at it. Yeah, there's quite a layer of gold on the bottom of that beaker. Alright, I'm going to let this sit and settle just to get the finer little gold particles to settle to the bottom. There's probably some really fine ones in there. I think it settles faster with copperas because there's no gas production like there is with SMB. So there's no gas bubbles in there to buoy up the smaller particles of gold. They just sink right down through the water column and right to the bottom fairly quickly. Alright, so I'm going to let this sit for a little while, clean up my mess. It's been a couple minutes. The filter paper strip starting to dry out. I don't see any trace of purple on it. I think we're good. Alright, well, it's the next day. I let the liquid settle overnight, even though I probably didn't need to. I got busy yesterday afternoon with other things and just left it. So there shouldn't be any gold left in the water column. It should be all down on the bottom. I got to thinking about that stannous chloride test I did yesterday, and even though it was fresh stannous chloride, I'm like, I didn't see nothing. I mean, there was no trace of gold, there was no trace of platinum or palladium or anything, and I'm like, I better redo that. So first thing this morning, I made up some fresh stannous chloride, and I did another test, used my favorite white spoon method, and guess what? Still got nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I guess we're good. Ready to clean up this gold and melt it down. I thought I saw a trace of orange in the test I did that I forgot to film during the first refining of the gold, which led me to believe there might have been a little bit of platinum there, but maybe it didn't follow through. So I think we've got some really clean gold here. I was wondering if there were going to be any platinum group metals in the leftover liquid, but it looks like there's nothing detectable there. There might be a little bit of a trace of it, but nothing detectable. Okay, I'm going to get set up to clean up this gold. It's my least favorite part of using copperas. I've got to get all of these iron compounds out of the gold. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is set up to siphon off the bulk of the liquid just like I did last time, just to get rid of it. Then I'll deal with cleaning up the gold at the bottom of the beaker. Alright, same process as last time. I'm going to siphon the bulk of the liquid off the gold down there and try not to suck up any gold. But, you know, I'm siphoning it into this pitcher. If I do get any gold accidentally, it'll settle into the bottom of the pitcher, and I can recover it. Easy enough. So, you saw this process in part 1, assuming you watched part 1. So, I'll either speed this up or edit it down so you don't have to watch the whole thing again. Alright. That is the bulk of that nasty yellow liquid off. Unfortunately, getting it all out is a process. It's going to take multiple washings with both hot water and uriatic acid to get it all out. So, that's what's coming up next. But that is some good looking gold down there. I just got to clean it up again. Alright. Show you the washings when they happen. So I'm setting up for multiple washes here. I've got some distilled water heating up in this beaker back here. We're going to do hot water washes. And I've got some tap water heating up in this beaker inside the fume hood. So we're going to start off with hot water tap water washes on the gold to try and get as much of the yellow out as I can. Then we're going to do a boil of the gold in hydrochloric acid. And then we're going to finish up with some distilled water washes. So just got to wait for the water to heat up, then I can get started on that. Well, after a few delays to run some errands, it's time to clean this stuff up. So I've got hot water ready to go. Got tap water in the fume hood and distilled water over there. We'll do the tap water rinses first. A lot of smaller rinses are generally more effective than 1 or 2 big rinses. Agitate it good. Try and get that stuff out from between the particles of gold. Oh, I like how that stuff is agglomerating together. Really clean gold will stick together nicely. You know, when it's dirty is when it wants to be a really fine powder and it doesn't want to stick together. But when it's really, really clean, it just agglomerates together nicely. Doesn't form a cloud in the water. That's nice. So I should be able to pour this off without losing much. I'm going to pour it into this beaker here, this big beaker. Pour my rinse water in there. And any small particles of gold that do make it over will settle to the bottom of that beaker, and I will recover them later. So that was 1. 2. Already we've got a lot of the yellow out. Okay. Still see some yellow. And keep rinsing. And I think I do see some small, very small, tiny particles of gold coming over. Probably get a film of gold in that bottom of that big beaker. I'll recover that later. Turn this hot plate off in here. I hear it ticking away, but I don't have anything on it. Ever so slightly yellow. I don't know if that's showing up. But boy, that's really nice, the way the gold's sticking together. It's one thing I do like about using copperas. I mean, I don't like the laborious cleanup afterwards, but I do like how clean the gold is when you drop it from copperas and how it sticks to itself so nicely. Okay, that looks pretty good for the preliminary rinses. I'm not really seeing any yellow this time. But we're not done cleaning it. There's one more important step. Well, actually a couple more important steps. I'm going to give this a boil in hydrochloric acid, uric acid, whatever you want to call it. It's a quick boil. Put enough uric acid in the beaker to cover the gold. Put it back on the heat in the fume hood and boil it for a little while. Then I'll start rinsing it with the distilled water, and then we should have some really good clean gold. So I want to boil out and react out anything that might be left in there with the muriatic acid. All right, let me get some muriatic acid on this stuff and get it on the heat. And I changed brands of muriatic acid lately, and this stuff is a little yellow itself right out of the container, which I don't like. Should be water white and clear. So this stuff comes off the boil a little yellow. It'll be partly because of that. Alright, I'm putting it back in the fume hood on the hot plate. Turn the hot plate back on. Cover it up. I'm going to let that boil for a little while. Fume hood going. Got a nice rolling boil going on in there. I'm just going to let that continue for another 5 or 10 minutes, then take it off the heat and let it cool down. Then it'll be back to rinsing. Wow, will you just look at the color of that gold after the muriatic acid wash. That is just gorgeous. Very nice. So, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decant off the acid, and then I'm going to give it one more tap water wash, since I have some hot tap water left, enough for maybe one more wash. Then I'll start on the distilled water washes. Alright, sorry about the leaf blowers going on across the way. Big apartment complex over there. They got their yard crew over there today, apparently. Alright, so this is cooled off enough that I'm not going to get a face full of acid fumes when I take the lid off. I'm going to carefully decant off the acid. My goodness, that's great how the gold just clumps together like that when it's nice and clean. I am getting some gold over into my rinse water. I can see it down there on the bottom. Just a little bit. It's okay. Not going to be lost. What I will probably do is siphon off the bulk of the liquid, and the last little bit at the bottom with the gold in it, I will put through a funnel with a filter paper on it and capture the gold on the filter paper. Alright, so it won't go to waste. So this is going to be the last tap water rinse. So I'm now out of hot tap water. And now we will start on the hot distilled water rinses. Again, lots of small rinses, more efficient than a few big ones. What I'm mainly trying to do now is get the acid out, and anything it might have dissolved out of or off the surface of the gold during the boil. I'll tell you what, it's January 2021 and it seems like people are flying again. Haven't had so many planes go over in a long time. It was very quiet there for a few months. Airport was like a ghost town. Now they seem to be back in business. Okay, I'm going to give it one more rinse, and then I'm going to check the pH of the rinse water and see if we've got the bulk of the acid out of it. Might need to rinse it a few more times. Okay, let's see what we got here. Don't care if it's not exactly at 7, but yeah, it's about 6. So that's pretty darn close. You know, That's probably close enough for me. Well, I got more water. Got a little more room in the beaker. Maybe I'll give it one or two more rinses just to be thorough. I'll give it one more just to be thorough. Okay, I don't think you could ask for cleaner gold than that. I'll try and get a close-up photo of it, since it's just so darn beautiful. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put this beaker on a low heat and dry out the gold. I don't want to get it hot too quick and have it boil and have the moisture that's left in there boil and spatter the gold all over the place. I want it to just evaporate slowly and peacefully. So here's the gold from the bottom of the rinse water beaker that tried to get away from me. Gotta try harder than that. I got a filter paper down here in this funnel. I will capture that gold on this filter paper. Well, my sprayer's about out of water. This is enough to get this gold out of here. 'Cause that's a fair bit of gold. Alright, that looks pretty good. Yeah, there's a fair pile of gold in the bottom of that filter paper. What I might do is do the same thing to this that I did to the other gold. Give it a few rinses. Maybe rinse with muriatic acid once, and then some more distilled water rinses, and make sure it's good and clean, get all the copperas out of it, and then add it into the other gold that's drying in the fume hood. So here's the nice dry gold powder. It's a little late in the day to think about melting it down, so maybe tomorrow. Showed it to my wife. She's like, "Ooh, what's that powdery stuff? What kind of coating has it got on it?" I said, "That's gold." "It doesn't look like gold." That's gold. It'll look like gold after I melt it down. I guarantee that. Alright, I'll be back. Probably tomorrow. Alrighty, it is time to melt down this lovely gold. And see what kind of a bar we can make out of it. So I've got my graphite mold here. And I'm going to heat it up with this MAP gas torch. You always want to preheat your mold. Even the slightest trace of moisture in the mold will possibly cause a steam explosion, which will blow your molten gold all over the place, including all over you, which will really ruin your day in a couple of different ways. Your gold will be gone and you'll be covered with burns. So you always want to preheat your mold. So we'll get that going. Got my crucible here. I've used this before. I only use this for gold. It's already been seasoned and coated with borax. I've got this little bit of gold here that I recovered from the rinse water yesterday. It's actually more than I thought it was, so I'm going to put this in the bottom of the crucible and cover it up with this other gold, just so we don't lose any of it. I'm going to need to start buying bigger crucibles if I'm going to process this amount of gold in the future. Little crumb got away. I'll deal with that later because now it's got insulation in it. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of anhydrous borax on top of the gold. This will help it melt. You can use regular borax too, but it'll pop up like popcorn when it gets hot and tend to go all over the place. Anhydrous works better. It just melts without drama. Okay. Get my oxyacetylene torch going here. My goggles on, because this is going to be bright. I don't know how it's going to show up on the camera. It's going to sort of slowly preheat everything. Get the borax to start melting. It'll glue everything together so I don't have to worry about blowing the gold out all over the place with the torch. Then once it's all preheated, I can get down there closer with the torch and start really melting the gold. Just sort of running the flame around the edge of the crucible. Yeah, gold's starting to melt. There we go. Now it's melting good. Let me see if I can get, there's like multiple puddles of gold in here. Let me see if I can get them to consolidate into one big bead. Alright, let me turn this a little more so hopefully you can see the molten gold in there. I know the angle's not great. I want it all to consolidate into one. Turn this off so I don't get burned when I reach over there to pour this. That's a pretty big bead of gold. Okay, we'll let that solidify a little bit. Now normally I would dump my beads of gold into a glass beaker full of water, but this is too heavy. This would just bust the beaker. So into a metal pot it goes. Oh, there we are. Wow, that is nice. Got a nice mirror finish to it. I like that. Alright, next stop for the little gold bar. It is getting a boil. Well, it's not quite come to a boil yet. In dilute sulfuric acid to take off any stuck on borax. It looks like it's got some borax stuck on it. So we're going to get that off before we weigh it up. Okay, here we are, fresh out of the acid boil. Looking good, nice and shiny. Got some nice flow lines in it. I hope those are showing up from where the gold hardened up in the mold. Alright, so let's weigh it up. Just drives me nuts. Okay, 50.00 grams. Alright, perfect. Take that off. This on. Whoa! Oh, okay. I was going to say 24.00. How did that happen? Well, now it is back to 24.00. 24.0. Hey, you know what it is? It's the wind. it's the wind because I'm outside. I'm going to take this inside and try it. Alright, I'm indoors, out of the wind, and it looks like 24.00 grams is what the scale is telling me it is. Alright. Don't know how we got those 2 zeros on there, but hey, it happens sometimes. Okay, so we're 2.05 grams lighter than what we started with. But I can believe that, because there was a lot of crud in the filter after the first refining. There was a whole lot of crud in that filter. There was a lot of silver chloride mud. There was a lot of particulates of various colors and sizes. So all that stuff came out of the gold, so I can believe it. There's probably also a little bit of gold left in the crucible. There are some little tiny gold beads up around the edge. I'm not going to try and recover them. I'll just leave them there for the next time I melt gold in that crucible, and you know, it'll all get mixed together. So 24 grams of very pure gold. I can't tell you what purity it is exactly without sending it out for assay. Or I could take it down to the jewelry store and try to sell it. They'll measure it with their gauge and tell me what carat value it is. Hopefully it would go all the way to 24 carats. 24 grams of 24 carats. That'd be nice. I wouldn't be surprised if it would measure 24 carats on their gauge, because I've done it before using this exact same method. Anyway, so much for refining that dirty gold. I hope you found this interesting or informative or educational, or any or all of the above. If so, give the video a like, thumbs up, subscribe to see future videos, and press the bell icon too to be notified when future videos come out, because I've got more in the pipeline. And thanks for watching. Keep it safe out there. Have a good one. Bye.